This video is about the process of writing an abstract to accompany a scientific paper. Although an abstract is usually presented at the top of a scientific paper, right after the title and author information, the abstract is usually the last thing that one writes over the process of producing a scientific paper. And we'll see why that is as the video proceeds. The first document I'd like to use in this discussion is from the RPI writing site, and boost the size of that a little bit, and it provides a very nice description in a page and a half. An abstract is a stand-alone statement, and nothing is more important or significant about the concept of an abstract than the fact that it needs to stand alone. An abstract needs to be an independent document that somebody can read and learn from, assess, etc., all by itself. It should not depend upon the scientific paper that it's based upon. So it's brief. Abstracts typically are 200 to 300 words. In some cases, the number of words is will be determined by the guidelines for whatever journal or conference that the abstract is going to be directed toward. 250 words is very typical. Sometimes I've worked with things where they want a micro abstract of 100 to 150 words. Sometimes they allow 500 words, which might almost be a summary of a paper rather than a true abstract. It says here again, the abstract appears as the first section of the paper, but it should, however, be written last. You need to already have an extremely clear idea of what you've done, the writing of what you've done, what your results were, what your conclusions were. That has to be very, very clear and well written already and then that can be assembled into the abstract. So what goes into the abstract? The abstract is, well, let's see here. Typically, it will have the same elements of the scientific paper that is being abstracted, such as the objective, the methods, the results, and the conclusions of the paper, but in a very, very compressed format. It is possible, especially for an abstract which is expected to be a little more complete than the micro abstract, that the abstract might include some relevant literature and background information. But that is usually the first thing that starts to get trimmed in the case of a very short abstract. The abstract is spectacularly concise. The abstract should be very direct. Here's just a simple example of a very short abstract. So how does one write an abstract? There's another document which has this process described in a step-by-step as well, but this one is also good. Once you have a complete paper, what can be done is you can just go through the paper with a highlighter, or go through the paper and grab chunks in a cut and paste kind of a process, and find the objective and conclusions, snag those right for the abstract, the most clear summary statements of your objective and conclusions, finding information in the methods section that is the most pithy statement of what you did, the clearest statement from your paper of what the results were, and take all of those items and just assemble them into the paper. It may be necessary to add a little bit of a transition or bridging sentences, and it may also be necessary, depending on the expected length of the abstract, to reduce the wordage a little bit, delete extra words and phrases, Background information is usually in a gray area. It may be useful or necessary in some substantial abstracts, but it's also the first thing to be deleted. The abstract does take quite a bit of revision. It is really hard to literally say a whole study, months of work possibly, or even more, and reduce that down into 200 words or whatever the rules are. I'd like to show another document on writing an abstract, and this one, the purpose of the abstract. This one tells a little more about the purpose. An abstract is very typically used for the purposes of someone deciding whether they want to get or read your full paper, or whether they want to attend your presentation at a meeting or conference. So the abstract is really the teaser for your paper. It's really the commercial for your paper. It's really the so-called trailer for your paper. It's the thing that somebody can view quickly, and hopefully you'll convince them of the value and importance of your paper, which they'll then read, or they will be glad to attend your presentation. So that's the purpose of the abstract. Typically 200 to 300 words is very common, sometimes shorter, sometimes more slack is given. Let's see here. Knowing how to write an abstract is valuable not only so that you can write your own, but so that you can make use of other people's abstracts, so that you can read them effectively and at the very least understand what an abstract is, why it's important, why it's useful to skim all the abstracts for your favorite, journal for a month and decide which articles you're going to get, etc. So an abstract is very clear and concise. It will, again, highlight purpose, the research question, which may be kind of blended together, what was done, what the results were, what the conclusions were, and if if one of the results of the paper is to make recommendations, that can be followed as well. So the chronology or the form of the report is followed in the abstract. This is the sequence of topics in a paper: purpose and question, introduction perhaps with a bit of background, methods and materials, results, conclusions. It is standalone. That's an important aspect of it. So how is it done? Well, one will take your entire paper, as I said before, and go through it and underline, highlight, or grab and paste each of the key elements of your paper. What is the most concise statement of what you wanted to do? What are the three most concise statements of how you did the study, etc. And finally, each of these items maybe takes only 1 to 2 sentences. 1 to 2 sentences on each of these parts will lead to a fairly short abstract. And again, abstract being every word having to carry a lot of weight, every word has to do a lot of work. The process of revising the abstract will definitely be substantial as you go through and pick better words and choose, etc.